Joining us now to talk about today's announcement is Dr. Eric Loeb, who is an expert on Middle East studies at FIU. Professor, thanks very much for being here. Good to talk to you. So what was your reaction to the president's announcement today?
Well, I think we saw President Trump perform a delicate balancing act in terms of appealing to his base of donors and base of constituents, and at the same time trying to appease members in his cabinet who were opposed to this statement, as well as to his own son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and some American envoys who have been working very hard, traveling around the region to try to put an agreement together. While Mr. Trump recognized Jerusalem as the Israeli capital and talked about plans to move the American embassy there, which could take months, if not years for that matter. On the other hand, he said that this statement by no means is against any U.S. commitment to pursue a future peace process, as well as to not really specify the details of future sovereignty on boundaries, borders, etc., regarding a future peace process.
So he also said that he is still in favor of a two-state solution. That's the official position still. But what does that do to the possibility of a two-state solution? And what does that do when we talk about Jared Kushner and others who have been having talks with the Saudis and others who now are not liking this decision?
Absolutely. I mean, this is going to make the process much more difficult. I mean, number one, this really undermines the U.S.'s credibility as a fair and honest partner or a mediator in this process, which it already had some challenges in terms of dealing with that status. And so, you know, that's going to make the process moving forward more difficult. Secondly, that this statement could very likely, I mean, we know for sure that this is going to incite protests and demonstrations in the Palestinian territories as well as the wider region. So in that kind of environment, how are these partners that we're working with going to have the political capital and legitimacy to move this process forward?
On the flip side, though, maybe this is something that jumpstarts the peace process. Making a move like this, which is something that presidents before President Trump have promised to do, yet none have followed through with until now. You know, maybe this will help sort of get things moving.
It could get things moving. One of the positives that some analysts at least point out is that it could, like you said, it could jumpstart the process. It could also prepare the Israeli public, you know, give them something to hang their hats on, not just the public, but also leaders, while at the same time trying to push them to make difficult compromises moving forward, such as dismantling settlements and realigning borders in the area.
And what about the settlements? There was no mention of the settlement expansions, very little mention of Palestinians, although he said that he did want everyone to show restraint and that he respected the peace process for both Palestinians and Israelis. But what about the Palestinians now? And what about East Jerusalem, which is really that disputed part of the area?
Right. I mean, absolutely. So, you know, as we said, you know, again, this making it very difficult because while I said that there's some nuance to this statement in terms of trying to appeal to both sides, the Palestinians, the Arabs, and the wider Muslim world may not necessarily see those nuances and may have a very, likely have a very emotional reaction. We're dealing with, you know, not just any typical capital, but the center for the major three monotheistic religions of the world. So, you know, again, this could, you know, very likely not just incite protests and demonstrations, but also violence.
I was fortunate to work in and cover as a journalist events in Israel a number of years ago, and it was a great experience. But I was so surprised at how complicated, how many layers of conflict there are, even within the Jewish community and the Palestinian community. They don't seem to be able to agree with each other.
Right. I mean, like any community, you know, it's not. This is not just sui generis or exceptional to Israelis and Palestinians, but you have a multitude of opinions in terms of how to move forward with this. And what makes it so difficult, and again, whether you're going to move forward with a two-state solution or a one-state solution, what makes it difficult again is that you have a confluence here of politics, history, and religion, which makes this issue particularly emotionally charged.
Dr. Eric Loeb is an expert on Middle East studies, a professor at FIU. Great to meet you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.